You've seen it, right? All over social media. The beautiful cobblestone streets, the cheap wine, this dream of a better, more affordable life in Portugal. But here's the thing. Behind that perfect Instagram filter, there's a completely different story. And it's a story the relocation industry really doesn't want you to see. A story of financial traps and quiet, devastating failures.
For me, it all started with this one email that came in at 2:47 in the morning from a friend. They were supposed to be living the dream in Portugal, but instead, they were broke, they were defeated, and they were secretly planning their flight back to the States. This wasn't just, a change of plans. This was a complete collapse of a dream. And what really got me was they weren't the only ones. They were actually the seventh couple I had personally watched try this move and then just quietly come back. 7 different moves, 7 Instagram feeds that just suddenly went dark. As a data analyst, I know a pattern that strong isn't just a coincidence. It was a signal that something was seriously wrong.
So I decided I had to dig in and find out what was really going on. What is the true cost of this dream? Because behind all those pretty pictures of pastries and sunsets, there's a story of financial ruin and broken dreams that almost nobody is talking about.
So, where do you even start? Well, I went straight to the source, the relocation agencies. I mean, they're the ones selling this dream, so they must have the data, right?
Oh, I could not have been more wrong.
Most of them just flat out ignored me. A few claimed they didn't track anyone long term. And the ones that did respond sent back these success rates that were just completely unbelievable. It was like hitting a brick wall.
But then, one agency owner actually agreed to talk to me, completely off the record. And what they said? Wow. It was chilling. It confirmed my worst suspicion. Their entire business model is built on selling the dream, not on the reality of you succeeding. They get paid when you move, not if you stay.
It took 8 months of digging through official records, leaked reports, and talking to hundreds of people, but I finally had the answer. And it all came down to one single, shocking number. A number that honestly reframes this entire conversation about moving to Portugal.
This is it. 68% out of the 1,247 Americans I tracked who moved to Portugal intending to stay for the long haul, a staggering 848 of them were back in the United States in under 3 years. Just let that sink in for a second. More than 2 out of every 3 people who try this end up coming home, often with their tail between their legs. This isn't the exception, you guys. This is the rule. This is the most likely outcome. And the cost of that failure, it's just devastating. When you factor in everything, visa fees, shipping costs, lost income, breaking leases, the average loss for these folks was between $40,000 and $112,000. This isn't just a bad vacation. This can literally wipe out your life savings. So the big question is, why? Why is this happening over and over again? Well, it's not just bad luck. My research pointed to 5 clear, systematic breaking points. These are the main reasons that consistently turn this beautiful Portuguese dream into a total nightmare. And here they are. As you can see, these 5 things account for pretty much every single failure. The number one reason, by a long shot, is just total financial collapse. That's followed by what I call healthcare nightmares, hitting the language wall, the soul-crushing bureaucratic hell, and finally, the myth of easy remote work. Let's break down those top 3.
Okay, let's start with the biggest one, money. The number one pitch you hear about Portugal is how affordable it is. But the reality for the people I talked to was a massive shock. Their actual real-world costs were 40 to 60% higher than what all the blogs and online calculators told them to expect.
So where does all that extra cost come from? Well, it's all the stuff they don't put in the brochures. It's the car trap, where taxes can double the price of a vehicle. It's banking hell with endless fees for international transfers. It's the shocking winter heating bills. We're talking up to 600 euros a month for these beautiful but totally uninsulated apartments. And it's the hidden import duties on your own stuff. It just adds up so fast.
All right, breaking point number 2, healthcare. We Americans have this idea of amazing, accessible European healthcare. But what people often find in Portugal is a public system that's seriously underfunded and completely overburdened. We're talking 6 to 18-month waits for a specialist. The private system is faster, sure, but it can be a minefield of exclusions for pre-existing conditions, and you often have to pay thousands up front.
This quote from Robert, a 62-year-old who moved back to the U.S., really just says it all.
For him, the constant stress and anxiety of worrying about getting sick, of navigating this complicated system, it completely erased any joy he got from the beautiful lifestyle.
And the third major breaking point is the language wall. This idea that, oh, everyone in Portugal speaks English is probably the most dangerous myth out there. Yeah, it might be true when you're ordering a coffee as a tourist, but for a resident, it's a disaster. For anything that actually matters, a doctor's appointment, dealing with the government, understanding a contract, you absolutely need fluent Portuguese. Without it, people get trapped in this lonely expat bubble, feeling more isolated than they ever did back home.
Okay, so it's not all doom and gloom. About a third of the people I tracked, they're still there, and they're thriving. So what's the secret sauce? What separates the successful 32% from the 68% who come home broke? The data points to some very, very clear patterns. When you look at the data side by side, the difference is just night and day. Look at this. The successful group had, on average, over $120,000 in liquid savings. The group that failed, just $35,000. The successful ones were already conversational in Portuguese before they even moved. They had taken multiple, long trips there in different seasons. And this is critical, their income was truly independent, not tied to a U.S. company's whims.
So, what does all of this actually mean for you if you're sitting there dreaming about this move? Well, based on these super clear patterns, we can basically create a simple reality check to see if this dream is actually a good idea for you, personally.
Okay, here's the bottom line. I've boiled all this research down into 7 critical questions, and you have to be brutally honest with yourself. If you answer no to more than 2 of them, you are statistically in that high-risk 68% group. Let's just go through the 2 most important ones right now.
First up, the big one. Forget the blogs, forget the online calculators. Just ask yourself, can my bank account handle it if my actual costs are 60% higher than my budget for years? If the honest answer is no, then you have to be really, really careful, because the dream is already on thin ice.
And second, language. And let's be real, this isn't about doing Duolingo on the plane. True integration, being able to handle your own life without a translator, it takes real fluency. Are you truly willing to put in the 500+ hours of serious study over 2 or 3 years to get there? Because that's what it takes.
Look, the point of all this isn't to crush anyone's dreams. It's about grounding them in reality. The dream of living in Portugal is absolutely real for the small number of people who are truly prepared. But for the majority who are running on hype instead of data, it just becomes a very, very expensive fantasy.
And that really leaves us with one last kind of haunting question. The next time you're scrolling through social media and you see all those perfect pictures from expats living their best life, just to ask yourself, how many of those people are just a few months away from becoming another quiet failure? How many of those happy faces will be just another number in this data set next year?